Well, it's important to think not just about the ways that you've come under attack, but the ways that you can defend yourself from all these different areas that you come under attack. Like with physical and sexual violence, let's talk about ways to address those areas. That's where a safety plan can come in handy. And at WomenSV, we work very carefully, very closely with our ladies to develop a safety plan in all the different areas they've come under attack. That's why we like to do the danger assessment and the web scale with each one of our ladies. And the danger assessment is a series of 20 questions, and you can go online. It was to look at it was created by Jackie Campbell. If you see my previous video on unmasking Dr. Jekyll, you'll see a bit of an introduction to that there. But those 20 questions were developed as a result of Jackie Campbell, a doctorate in nursing at Johns Hopkins University, studying thousands of women who'd ended up getting killed by their intimate partner. They'd been in the system at some point, but a significant percentage of them had significantly underestimated the level of danger they were in. So there's 20 questions, in that danger assessment to look at. Things like, has he threatened to kill you? Has he put his hands on your throat? Do you have a child who's not his? Does he have a problem with alcohol? Does he own a gun? Have you left him after living together? You go through those questions and you'll see that they're not all physical. It's not all, has he drawn blood lately? These are other things that you might not have thought about. Has he been stalking you? Do you know that, according to Reed Malloy, forensic psychologist Reed Malloy, that of women who end up getting killed by their partner, 80% of them have been stalked prior. Of the women who end up getting killed by their intimate partner, over 80% of them had been stalked prior. Stalking is a lethality risk when you are escaping from an abusive relationship. And unfortunately, our legal system doesn't take it nearly as seriously as they should. So the danger assessment helps to give you a score, a sort of a snapshot in time, and that score can vary depending on so many different variables, but a sense, a more objective sense of the level of danger you're in. And many of our ladies are surprised at the high score that they get on that assessment because they don't have broken bones or bruises to show for what they've been through. That one of the other questions is, does he control most or all of your daily activities, like who you're talking to and what you're doing with your time? That controlling behavior is very, very dangerous. Because again, we go back to that idea of ownership, that he owns you and he gets to decide every waking moment what you do with your time. The power and control wheel, that's another important document or instrument to look at, to identify these some of the types of abuse you may have been subjected to beyond physical and sexual, that kind of get more at coercive control. They don't cover it all. For example, they don't cover that part about turning you into the Stepford wife, micromanagement, micro-regulation around traditionally female household tasks and duties, or the monopolization of perception, where they want you to shrink your horizons so that all you're thinking about 24/7 is how to please them, how to keep the peace, how to be a buffer between them and your children. They are still trying to monopolize your perception even when you're going through the court process. So be aware of that. And the counter strategy to that is, if you can think of silos and spend some time dealing with what you have to deal with when it comes to your husband or your ex, and then putting that in a little black box, put it in the back of your mind, and then move on to your work, to your friends, to getting back in touch with yourself, what your interests are, who you were before you got into this relationship. Because he's still going to try and suck every ounce of life and energy and attention out of you, even after escaping from the relationship. So the danger level, did you know, spikes for at least 2 years after escaping from an abuser. So keep that in mind as well. Just because you have exited the relationship doesn't mean the danger is over. He's going to forget about you and move on. Even if he has a girlfriend, their memories are long and their grievances run deep. So looking at the danger assessment, the power and control wheel, which you can Google online, and I'll show you that as well. Do you have a family justice center in your area? Family Justice Center was created by Casey Gwinn, the district attorney in San Diego. He created the country's first family justice center, meant to be your one-stop shopping to fulfill all your domestic violence needs. And in Santa Clara County, it's kind of a pop-up clinic that several of our wonderful sister domestic violence agencies house and offer like once a week. But down in San Diego, they have one that's open all the time, which is wonderful. And I hope we move in that direction too in Santa Clara County. But imagine a hub with spokes coming out, and depending on what your needs are, you can talk to somebody in the department. Are you looking for a family law attorney? To get some heads up about what the divorce process would look like and what your rights are. Are you looking for an immigration attorney if you have immigration issues? Or would you like to talk to a deputy district attorney if there's a criminal case pending? Would you like to talk to a domestic violence advocate if you want help with safety planning? Lots of different professionals, providers there who can give you some free advice and counsel. So the Family Justice Center, look for one in a neighborhood near you. Reaching out to different domestic violence agencies for help in all these different areas. There are many wonderful agencies in our county to help you with, and that have 24-hour hotlines that you can call too if you need somebody to reach out to in the dead of night. We run our program. We are a tiny staff, and we keep business hours. But if you're looking for somebody to talk to in the dead of night or help right away with a restraining order or housing or shelter, lots of different needs, take a look at all the different agencies that are available in Santa Clara County. Safety plan, so important to develop a safety plan around physical domestic violence issues and sexual violence issues. So important to take a look at, and we have different examples that we can share with you about how to keep yourself safe going forward, whether it be security cameras installed outside your home, deadbolts on the inside of your front door or any door that he may have access to. Thinking about where you park your car. Is it on the street? So think about your home as a castle, as a fortress. What are the points of vulnerability in your fortress? You are the queen. You are the queen of your castle now. So how to protect your castle from invasion. What does the garage look like? Do you park your car in the garage? Does he have access to that code that opens the garage door? Maybe it's time to change that code. Did you change your locks as soon as you ended the relationship if you're still in the same home? If you move someplace else, can you reach out and to the Safe at Home folks through the Secretary of State? So you can create a safe at home address where mail goes to them and then to you. So you can keep your new address confidential. Well, if you're at work in a company that has security, and if there's a restraining order, could you share a photo, or even if you're concerned about your safety, whether or not there's a restraining order, could you share a picture of your ex with whoever's in charge of security, and let them know that if this guy shows up, please call the police right away. He's not to be allowed in. To your workplace. Where do you park at work? There's another point of vulnerability from the parking lot into your workplace. Think about the places you are when you are out and about. You might want to think about different routes depending on what your patterns were when you were together. Do you have to shop at the same place on the same day? Can you choose a different day? Can you join a different gym? Pick up a different hobby? Or, if you like to hike up in the hills alone, could you start hiking somewhere else with a buddy? So be thinking about times and places where you could be vulnerable, and being alert. So most of us, when we go out into the world, if we think about a grading system of our attention and how focused we are in our environment versus being wrapped up in our own head or in a conversation with a friend. Let's say you're on the street corner and you're talking to a friend in downtown. Yeah, when you're with that friend, your color code could be just absolutely white, where you are not thinking about anybody else but the friend you're talking to. What happens if a car pulls up across the street? If you're getting in touch with your surroundings and being vigilant, you may be aware of that car that just parked across the street while continuing the conversation with your friend. Now you're at the orange level, aware of that car that just parked, continuing the conversation with your friend. Now that person is in the car looking at you, now getting out of the car while still looking at you. Now you're in the red zone. Now it's time to think about, what are you going to do? Will you suggest to your friend that you dip into the coffee shop? If you're still continuing to talk to your friend and this person is crossing the street headed towards you, watch out that you don't end up in the engage zone, where it ends up where you're in the black, where it's too late. Attack has happened in one form or another. So I'm not suggesting that you be paranoid when you're out and about, just vigilant and aware, so much more aware than we usually are. Do you know that somebody was shot at the Stanford Shopping Center not too long ago? This is Stanford. Things happen, and we have all these smash and grab incidents that are happening these days, now that more and more petty criminals and otherwise are being let loose on the streets. So it is time, especially as a woman, sorry to say, especially as a woman, it's very important to be vigilant about your surroundings, and not just when it comes to smash and grabbers, but also your ex. So physical safety, of course, safety first, always. Thinking about your safety in the home. If you have windows that open, you might want to think about going to the hardware store and getting some dowels. Measure how much you want to open your window by. And so enough that you get some fresh air, but not enough so that somebody can crawl through it, right? And through the screen on that window. So you might measure that distance, between the window opening and the other side of the window. That long dowel is what measured at a hardware store. You can cut it into different lengths and take those measurements, and you can stick that dowel in the window and just leave it there, and then you can open your window to get some fresh air while still feeling that's only as far as the window can open. So deadbolts, if you have smaller children, what happens if dad shows up at the door and bangs on the door and says, "Let me in"? You may have had a conversation with the children and may have said to them, "Don't open the door to anybody, even your father." And it's all well and good to have that conversation with your children, but children can be programmed just as you might have been programmed in that relationship. And that voice, did you ever pick up the phone when you knew it was your husband calling because you knew what would happen if you didn't answer on the second ring? That's often how children are programmed as well. When he knocks, they better answer or there will be hell to pay. I serve on the death review team, and I know what happens when people open the door after exiting an abusive relationship. So that's where you might want to think about having a lock on the inside of the door. That's an electronic lock that you set the code for and you have access to. So you might want to think about that as you're going off to bed at night, that is the when you're not in the immediate vicinity, so that you decide who answers the door. If you go off to sleep, we don't want him banging on the door, yelling to the children to let him in, especially if something's happened in court where you've won a victory. You want to take a moment and celebrate that victory while realizing that no victory comes without a price to pay for it afterwards. And that price is increased vigilance on your part, because any victory you have, he will perceive as a loss to him and another source of another grievance. With the financial piece, if you've experienced financial abuse at the hands of your covert abusive partner, you might want to reach out to a certified divorce financial analyst, a CDFA, somebody that specializes in dealing with financial issues, especially in particular around the area of divorce. We have several that we work with closely, and they are wonderful. They're just another lifeline for our ladies. So CDFA, if maybe you've had no control over the finances at all, maybe you've never had to do a budget, and you're just starting to think about, what are the different options now? Sell our house. If I get the house, rent it out. Look at my husband's retirement plan. Think about the different options that are available to you, taking some percentage, half of his Social Security when you come of age. If you don't marry again, there's lots of different things, tips and tricks that CDFAs can share with you. And you're talking to financial planners in general. Can you locate a good forensic accountant, and not just a good forensic accountant, but a forensic financial investigator, which is different. And this is like a private investigator, a detective, who can track down, hunt for money that's hidden overseas. So there are things you can do to take your financial power back. And always know that anytime you take any of your power back, he's perceiving it as a loss on his part. Because these guys view relationships as a zero-sum game. Anything that you gain, that means it's a loss to him. He has to take from you in order to have what he needs. So through the court system, if you find you're being attacked in the court system, is there somebody that can go with you to court? And when you go to court, you might want to think about, now that we're sort of COVID restrictions are lifting and there's more and more people going to court in person rather than having it happen virtually. Is there a friend or somebody who can go with you? Could you take an Uber there so you don't have to worry about parking? And especially being in a parking garage, you don't want to end up in the same parking garage as your ex. If there was a restraining order against him, when you go in the front door of the courthouse and you check in with the guards, could you let the guards know that there's a restraining order against your ex, and you would rather wait, if you could wait on a different floor than the floor that your courtroom is on? You'd appreciate that. Could you talk to your attorney about slipping a word to the bailiff and to the judge that you be released from the court hearing maybe 15 minutes in advance, so you get a lead on getting that Uber and getting out of Dodge before he's released? Can you think about a place to stay in and around the court date that he doesn't know about? A place to stay where you could do your own little staycation. Because these court dates, that increases the risk too. It reminds him that you're the enemy, and if things go your way, even if they don't, it's still another source of heightened potential danger for you. Do you have an attorney to represent you? So many of our ladies end up going to court representing themselves while he's got this high-powered attorney, and somehow that doesn't rise to the level of awareness with the judge, seeing that he's so well represented and she not so much. It's still, the blame gets shared 50-50. But you really want to be careful to have an attorney representing you who understands what they're up against. Do you know that you can become a family law attorney with zero education in domestic violence? Courses in domestic violence are electives for family law attorneys, and yet after they take the bar and pass it and hang up their shingle as a family law attorney, they can even say, and we specialize in domestic violence. And then those family law attorneys can go on to become judges. So we have to watch out for attorneys who may be very well-meaning, but they may still have these preconceived notions that are misperceptions of, well, if it was so bad, why did you stay so long? If it was so bad, why didn't you call the police? Or, oh, but there's two sides to every story. Or we want the father to be involved in the life of the child. Even a flawed father is better than no father at all. And I have to tell you, you're not going to hear that from me. If a father has committed violence against a mother, well, first of all, he's got a long way to go to redeem himself. But if he shows any signs of empathy, remorse, self-reflection, a willingness to do better and be better, maybe there's some hope there. I have yet to come across that report in the course of dealing with and serving over 1,000 women in the past 10 years. I have not found that. I found that the partners of the ladies that I work with fit the Dark Tetrad as if they were cookie cutter cutouts of one another. If you want to know more about that, well, don't forget to hit the subscribe button to hear more, but also check out my earlier video, the Unmasking Dr. Jekyll, to hear me go into detail about the Dark Tetrad. When you're dealing with the Dark Tetrad, this intractable personality that's about having everybody, the world revolve around them, being opportunistic and cunning and calculating, exploiting weaknesses, gaining pleasure out of causing pain to others, and lying easily and often even when they don't need to, and lacking empathy and remorse and self-reflection. When you're talking about that constellation, remember? Constellation, star here, star there. We fit them all together. What do we come up with? The constellation, the covert abuser, the Dark Tetrad. When you're dealing with that, if they end up, most of them are too smart to ever end up in a batterer's intervention program. They're too smart to get arrested. And if they do get arrested on a weak moment, they've usually got attorneys to get them off. Or there was a case even of a co-facilitator of a batterer's intervention program. The surgeon abuser shows up the first night, whips out his checkbook, and he says, how much does it will it cost me to get out of this, thinking that money buys him a free get out of jail card. But even if they do end up going to the batterer's intervention program, this type of abuser will learn the tricks of the trade so that next time he won't get arrested. The abuse then goes underground, and he becomes even more subtle. He becomes more subtle, more sophisticated, more cunning, more calculating in his abuse, so he doesn't end up going to jail or getting put on probation. This is the type of person we're talking about where anything in the hands of an abuser can become a weapon. Even the Better's intervention program, where he learns the tricks of the trade, how to abuse without getting arrested. So it's important to have an attorney on your side who gets it, who understands this type of personality. And it may not be somebody you want for your best friend, but you want somebody who believes you. You pay them to believe you, who will go to bat for you, and who will do whatever it takes to go the distance for you and to protect you and your children. And who won't buy that line that, oh, better a flawed father than no father at all. Going back to what I said earlier, like these guys, they tear up their father card when they're not a good husband, and many of them have been abusive towards the children as well. Statistically, they are more likely to abuse the children if they have abused you. Physically and sexually, more likely, at significantly higher risk of physically and sexually abusing the children if they have physically and or sexually abused you. Because they view women and children as objects, as possessions to be used and to serve at their pleasure. You need an attorney that understands that to me, saying better a flawed father, this type of flawed father than no father at all, it's like saying better a leg with gangrene in it than no leg at all. Yes, it's going to hurt to cut the leg off, and there'll be a time of readjustment and pain and suffering and recovery as a result of it, but you leave that leg on, that gangrenous, poisonous limb on, and you're at risk of destroying the entire system. Because he's going to work very hard to turn the children against you, to recruit them, to co-opt them, perhaps to punish and hurt them to get at you. But the ultimate weaponization of the children will be to turn them against you, to undermine your relationship with them. And they work very hard to do that. And we see time and time again women who give up one tyrant only to have another living under their roof. We have a lady, a couple of weeks ago, she was punched in the arm by her 16-year-old child. Punched in the arm by her child. Learned at the master's knee. Monkey see, monkey do. And when children are growing up with this kind of trauma, last hired, first fired, last to the table, first to leave. Civilization came very late in the game, right? We started off with this reptilian brain, then with the limbic system, and then the prefrontal cortex, where we learn to use our executive functioning reasoning skills. And when we get triggered with trauma, it's instinctive response that gets triggered. The punch, the bad words, the go-to. So any children that are growing up with this type of environment, I hope you're able to connect them with a therapist that understands. And again, therapists, just like attorneys, are not getting training in covert abuse or coercive control. Very little, if any. And so they start to see domestic violence as a communication issue. I'm here to tell you domestic violence is not a communication issue. Domestic violence is a crime. And you are a crime victim. And let's use that term victim unabashedly. I'm not talking about victim mentality. That's not the, oh, poor me and everything happens to me and why me. No, not that. It's like being a victim of a drive-by shooting. So there's no blame here for you. It's not, though the court may make you feel that way, like, what were you doing in that area with the drive-by shooting? What were you wearing when you got shot? Or in the old days, what were you wearing when you got raped? How suggestive were you being? What the heck? You are an innocent victim of the liberty crime of coercive control. You are an innocent victim of the liberty crime of coercive control. It is every woman, every child's right to be free and safe in their own home. And every time you experience abuse, you experience a violation of that fundamental human right, be free and safe in your own home. So you want a therapist that understands that understands the type of personality you're up against. These are the outliers. These are not the poor, poor, besotted, benighted soul that doesn't know any better, that just is following old family patterns, and it just needs to have, like a better way of dealing with stress, or work on boundary setting and respecting boundaries. But that is not what we're talking about here. We're talking about somebody that does not do self-reflection, does not feel remorse, does not feel empathy. That somebody that lies and will not present the true version of who they are to a therapist, or to their own attorney, or to the court, or to your children's pediatrician, or to their teacher. Just like he didn't present the true version of who he was to you. And aren't you still reeling from that years later? Because who did you fall in love with? Dr. Jekyll. Now who are you dealing with? Mr. Hyde. You see him. You can't unsee him. You can't put that toothpaste back in the tube. Your eyes are open now. But how long did it take you for your eyes to open? Days, weeks, months, years, decades? To really come to terms with the fact that he was not going to change. You've been bending over backwards. You've been saying, well, maybe I'll do this differently. I'll try this. Or, oh gosh, he's operating out of his childhood wounds. Or he's had a hard day at work. Or let me see if I can try this. Give up my job. Get a job. Get the kids to bed. The smarter you are, the more empathy you have, the more kindness and the ability to forgive you have, the longer you'll tend to stay, ironically enough, in a relationship like this, thinking that there's something that you can do to fix it. Because you've fixed so many other things in life. You've made a success of yourself in so many different areas of your life. You're brilliant. You're an attorney. You're a doctor. You're a lawyer. You're a CEO. You're a stay-at-home mom, dedicating your life to raising your children. You're all these wonderful things. So why can't you fix this problem? Why? Because you didn't cause it. You don't have the solution, because that's his problem. It's who he is. It's what he is. And there is nothing you can do to change this type of abuser. This is a covert abuser whose personality is formed from the Dark Tetrad. And what do you do when you run up against someone like that? Do everything you can to protect yourself and back away and build your village around you. Because otherwise, he's going to work very hard to take you down with him. So you need a therapist that understands that will validate your experience. Watch out for couples counseling, where they're going to try to say, what's your role in this? Or could you set clearer boundaries? Or use your I statements? Or be more assertive? Or would it really kill you to get dinner on the table, at 5 o'clock at night? Or what's your role in this? Watch out for all that. That whole, there's two sides to every story, goes right out the window when you're dealing with a covert abuser. You are the innocent victim here. And you need a therapist that understands that. Watch out for him going to a private individual therapist, because therapists, just like advocates, as I said in my earlier video, we believe you when you come to us, and we have statistics on our side that a very, very tiny percentage of women, turns out, end up lying about their experience. And 90% of domestic violence victims are female. And even the remaining 10% who are male are typically victims of their male intimate partner. So we have statistics on our side to believe our survivors, our ladies. But when therapists and attorneys get roped in, you'll hear attorneys making up they seem to be making up all kinds of egregious, outrageous lies. But what they're doing is they're believing the person that they're representing. So you need an attorney who's going to believe you. You need a therapist, if you want one, who's going to believe you and help you keep your sanity as you go through the craziness that can happen in family court. So in family court, to counter the attack against you, if you can bring somebody with you, a friend or a domestic violence advocate who's available. In the old days, pre-COVID, we would, at WomenSV, we would go to court with our ladies too, so they wouldn't have to face their abuser alone. We don't ever act as witnesses or ever give testimony. We fly under the radar when it comes to that. But we just want to support them in a way that shows them that they're not alone. Dealing with that court process, getting an attorney that understands what you're up against. We even have a series of issues to think about for finding the right attorney. And I can post that either in this video or in a subsequent one. So click on the subscribe button and a future one, remind me, and I will show you that. Finding the right attorney, finding the right therapist. These are key questions and points to consider. Don't just look one up in the yellow pages, because as I said, family law attorneys don't get training in dealing with the type of personality you're up against. So unless they've gotten it after they got their law degree, they're not going to know what hit them. Family Justice Center, that's another thing to think about for help in dealing with the court process. In Santa Clara County, we have something called Bay Area Legal Aid, and we also have the Pro Bono Project that can help with various aspects of domestic violence in the court process if you financially you're feeling under pressure. So unfortunately, many of our ladies fall through the cracks when they're seeking other kinds of social services, because on the surface it looks like they're earning a wonderful household income because of their husbands, but often they don't have access to it because he's taken total control of the finances. So that's important to explain as well. So now what happens when you come under attack through law enforcement? So one way, we think always with a sort of general premise in mind of first to market wins. Can you be the first one, even through the court process? Can you get to that mediator or the court-appointed therapist first and explain your story? And we even have tools to help deal with that, to share your story with the people that are important to you, not to act as legal documents, but to help you organize your thoughts. We call it the Executive Summary Workshop. And in another video, I'll share with you how to create one of those. So you can distill your story, condense it, the thousands of pages, the long Netflix series into a single episode that's a 2-page summary bullet points, so that you can hold the attention of whoever you're seeking help and validation support from. So with law enforcement, especially if you are concerned about your own safety, could you reach out to somebody? If you're in a town where you have a relationship with, where you can create a relationship with somebody in law enforcement, we're blessed in our town to have a wonderful police department that are really supportive of our work. But if you are lucky enough to have something similar in your town, could you call up the police department, the non-emergency line, and ask to speak with somebody who is a detective that focuses on domestic violence? Could you make an appointment with that detective and ask to speak with them to do some high-level safety planning? If you've moved to a new place, could they help you figure out where to position cameras in your home that will be strategically the best situated to keep you as safe as possible? Do they have any other safety tips to offer beyond dowels in the windows or deadbolt on the inside of your front door, or what to do with your garage or where you're parking? Can they give you more safety tips in and around your house, or at your workplace for that matter? Can they share with you what to do if you're driving and you think that you are being followed? Where should you go? To a well-lit place? To the nearest police department? Can you call 911? If you call 911 and you're not even in your own town, where will that call go? And what should you expect? If you're at home and you call 911, what should you do while you're waiting for the police to arrive? So these are just a few examples of questions that you can ask a police officer, even if you're still in the relationship and you're thinking of leaving. This could be a time for you to reach out if you have an understanding police department, and there are many police and many police departments that are understanding of domestic violence, and if you can reach out to a detective or an agent that understands, then that could be somebody that could help you with your own safety planning going forward. And this is also somebody that you can talk to in a moment of sanity and clarity, who will see you as an intelligent, articulate, well-spoken woman that just wants to be safe. So that if you end up in a situation where he's calling 911 or trying to get to the police and convince them how crazy you are, maybe they'll have heard from you already, and they'll have a heads up and understand here's another tactic that he's using, trying to weaponize the law against you. So this could be another way to reach out to get the support that you need going forward, appealing to people in positions of power who could help or hurt you, depending on whether or not they believe you. So something to think about. In our town, ladies can file something called an incident report, and that means the police officer they'll sort of log the report that our lady is making, but there's no obligation as long as the police officer knows that there's no crime in progress, you're not in immediate crisis here, you're just wanting to get some advice, some wise counsel for the road that lies ahead. And in some cases, in some police departments, you can file what's called an incident report. Well, there's even a little case number, and they'll file it away without having to ring up your husband and interview him. But if they get wind of the fact that let's say he punched you the night before, or did something that threatened to run you over with his Mercedes this afternoon, they're going to have to take action on that because they're mandated reporters. So you're going there for information. Be careful what you reveal about children unless you're ready for them to take action to protect you on that. So because they're mandated reporters, don't put them in an awkward position where they have to take action if you're not ready for them to. Because what happens if police or anybody acts before you're ready to, CPS can end up showing up and interviewing him, making him angry, interviewing the children, making them realize that if they speak out, they're going to be punished and pay for it later. And after the police leave or CPS leaves, you may have to pay for that later. So it's important to have all your ducks in a row, figure out what you want to do, where you're going, where you're going to be staying, source of income, legal representation if you're able to do that. But safe place to stay, source of income, food, shelter, clothing, Maslow's hierarchy of needs before you press the launch button, and then run and don't look back. It'll never be perfect. Your escape plan will never be perfect, but let it be good enough. And you run your cost-benefit analysis, and if the benefit outweighs the cost, then maybe it's worth taking a risk in that run to freedom, escape to freedom. And even if that escape to freedom doesn't last for very long, I don't want to be a Debbie Downer here, but I don't know a single lady who's regretted escaping from her relationship. I know ones that are struggling in court, and I know that's very hard as the battle goes on. Eventually that the fight and the struggle dissipates over time in most cases. And meanwhile, if she's built her village around her, she's getting on with her life, she's pursuing her career, she's being safe and doing whatever she can to connect or reconnect with her children, and discovering that there's a whole new world out there of adventure and freedom to explore. And then she discovers who she was before getting into this relationship and who she is now as a result. And you can't put a price on that kind of freedom. For however long it lasts, that taste of freedom, for however long it lasts, is often, in most cases with most of our women, well worth the risk. So with the, law enforcement thinking about, do you want to pursue a restraining order, something to talk about with an attorney or a police officer, and building that relationship with court providers, so that you can try to help them understand who's the truly protective parent here, and who's trying to be safe and keep their children safe going forward. Technological abuse. If you've been subjected to technological abuse, there's another attack. And then how do you defend yourself against that? Well, that's when we want to think about private investigators that are savvy in this area, who understand what it looks like to put a hidden camera and a smoke detector in your car, and who can take a look at your laptop or your phone to see if there's been a spyware or malware that's been put on it. Cybersecurity experts. You could take a look at some wonderful organizations and reach out to them for help. If you Google cybersecurity help, but be cautious before sharing too much information with them, because you want them to earn your trust first, just as you want anybody to earn your trust going forward. Don't give them the benefit of the doubt until they've proven to you that they're in a position to help you, and that they're not, even if it's a Facebook group that puts itself out as protecting against cyber stalking. Be careful about how much you share in that type of group, because sometimes there can be phishing expeditions that are being put forth by the other side. So watch out for that. Oh boy, self-care. Did we talk about that? The way that looking after yourself comes under attack. When you're in the relationship, if you spend any time on yourself, any time that's not devoted to your husband 24/7, he will accuse you of being selfish, and you'll be made to pay for it. And so you can start to feel maybe even a little guilty if you go to get your hair done or buy a new dress, or spend any time thinking about yourself going forward. Self-care is no longer an option. I will tell you, if you're thinking about escaping from your ex, in the process of escaping or having escaped, it is so important to be looking after yourself, because nothing else is going to happen if you can't get yourself out of bed. Do it not just for your sake, but for your children's sake, if you have children, so that you will be there to continue to fight the good fight with your children. So self-care, not an option anymore. And just see it as another little act of rebellion against your ex. If you get your hair done, haha, so there. You buy a new dress, aha, so there. You order something frivolous on Amazon, so there. Taking your power back, purchase by purchase. So also, but just looking after yourself nutrition-wise. Are you taking your vitamins? That you're, what's Dr. Fauci telling us now? Vitamin D3, vitamin C, and zinc, whatever else sounds like it's healthy for you, multivitamin. Are you eating meals regularly and eating healthy food? Are you passing up that candy bar because you know it's going to give you a sugar crash later? Watch out for the immediate fix. Often when we're in an abusive relationship, we're looking for relief, short-term relief from the pain that we're experiencing in the moment. Watch out for that extra glass of wine. Watch out for that extra chocolate chip cookie. Look for other ways to dull the pain, to relax, to have some respite. Could you take up a meditation class? There's something called sky breathing offered through Art of Living, which is this wonderful organization that teaches you to do breathing techniques that can help you take a beat before responding and help lower your blood pressure. Yale did a study of their students that showed that there were significant clinical results of doing this series of breathing exercises to help with anxiety and depression and PTSD. So take a look at things like meditation, sky breathing, a prayer, other forms of mindfulness, or prayer. If you're, as you know, I'm a woman of faith, and I can't imagine doing this work without drawing on that infinite source of love and power and protection. So it's not just me, puny little mortal, Ruth Darlene, that is waging this war against the dark forces that we and our ladies are up against. It's we've got a band of angels watching over us, so that we are all guardians of the galaxy. Nature. Can you go for a walk in nature? Take a friend along with you, or find ways to seek solace in a setting. You've heard about grounding. It's a big thing nowadays. If you can get to the beach, or put your toes, if not in the sand, in the grass. Anything you can do to just sort of reconnect with nature can be very healing. So, and if you can incorporate some kind of meditation into your daily practice, that's great too. But not all of our ladies are able to do meditation. That's why I mentioned sky breathing, because it's a series of breathing techniques that requires focus, and it's not just trying to empty your mind, and how hard it is for a trauma survivor to empty her mind without these images coming flooding back. It's another symptom of PTSD. So something to look into as far as self-care goes. And could that self-care also involve just simple little things like watching that trashy show on Netflix, or just reading a trashy novel, or having a lovely bath, sprinkle a little essential oil in there, get the colored lights going, put on Pandora with some Hawaiian music. What would pamper you and make you feel like a woman again, or loved? Valentine's Day can be a very hard day for our ladies. How often have you been disappointed on Valentine's Day by a partner that's supposed to show his love and did anything but? These guys don't do intimate occasions, and they can be even worse on days like Valentine's Day. But maybe that's a time to start thinking about taking your power back and showing some love for yourself, of maybe falling back in love with yourself, becoming your own beloved, filling up your own tank, and then feeling like, well, maybe then you can share that love with others down the road as they prove themselves worthy of it. So self-care, so important. The educational piece. Well, we talked about many of our ladies who give up their education. They've been in medical school, or becoming an attorney, or pursuing some other degree, and they gave it up for the sake of their family. Is it something you want to take up again, even if you're still in the relationship, especially if you are experiencing financial abuse? Maybe you want to think about ways that you could start becoming like a hot commodity again out in the work world. Slowly, but surely, you could look up things like Coursera. Is it Coursera.org? COURSERA. And I forget if it's .com or .org. I think it's .org. But there's lots of courses you can take on there for free. So you may feel, oh, I'll never make it out in the work world again. I'm in my 50s. 50's a new 30, honey. So don't worry about your age now. Worry about what you can still contribute to the world. Maybe you can go into business for yourself. One of the questions we ask our ladies is, what are your passions, your hobbies, your interests? And who knows what could come of those things that you could create your own business out of. So there's a world of opportunity out there just waiting for you to embrace it. But another piece of the educational process is learning more about what coercive control looks like, what abuse looks like. And you can start easy with DV 101 by reading Lundy Bancroft's book, Why Does He Do That? Inside the Minds of Angry and Controlling Men. Read anything by Lundy Bancroft. His When Dad Hurts Mom, or The Batterer as Parent, 2nd edition. These are all great books to take a look at and to really start to get a handle on what you're up against. Another one to start that gets at one of the pieces of the Dark Tetrad is called The Covert Passive-Aggressive Narcissist by Debbie Mirza. M like Mary, I-R-Z-A. The Covert Passive-Aggressive Narcissist. Now remember, if you looked at my previous video Unmasking Dr. Jekyll, you'll know that the narcissist is just one piece of the puzzle. We're not therapists. We shy away from clinical labels, but we can talk about subclinical psychopath and subclinical narcissist here, just the word that's used in everyday parlance these days. Since a certain person came into a position of power, it's become a household word. So if you want more information about these more subtle forms of controlling behavior, I think Debbie Mirza does a great job of getting at it in her book, The Covert Passive-Aggressive Narcissist. And you can go on our website, WomenSV.org, for more book suggestions. And here's a tip too. If you click on a book on our website and order it on our website, we'll get a little tiny cut. It's not going to cost you more. But also if you go on Amazon Smile and order anything there, make WomenSV your favorite charity, and we'll get a little piece of whatever the cost was. It won't cost you more. But we don't charge for our services, and that's why we always have to find creative ways to keep the lights on. So those are some book suggestions. Now about parenting. Is your parenting come under attack at the hands of your partner? Is he undermining your parenting ability? Are you when you have your kids with you now, if you're sharing custody, are your children starting to mirror some of dad's behaviors? You might want to think about reaching out to a parenting coach. If your child is a child with special needs, you might want to look at Parents Helping Parents, PHP, to see what resources they might have to offer. If your child is suffering from anxiety or depression, or some form of PTSD themselves, you might want to check out NAMI, National Alliance for Mental Illness. Did you know anxiety and depression, they are forms of mental illness? So we don't always think about schizophrenia, paranoid psychosis, when we're thinking about that. Your mind can get sick. Your mind, after years of living with an energy vampire, it takes a toll on your heart, your mind, your spirit, your body. Have you read the book, The Body Keeps the Score by Bessel van der Kolk? That talks about how trauma mounts up in the body and can express itself in different ways. Everything from migraines to cancer. You might want to take a look at Dodging Energy Vampires by Christiane Northrup. Another good book that kind of gets at what it's like to live with an energy vampire sucking the life out of you. Christiane Northrup, OBGYN surgeon, who's traditionally written books about women's health issues in the past, like women's bodies, women's wisdom, talking about menopause, took a more sort of spiritual bent with this book called Dodging Energy Vampires, and talks about the vast array of physical health issues that can come along with living with an energy vampire, a covert abuser. Did you know that broken heart syndrome is a thing? What's it called? There's a Japanese word for the syndrome, but broken heart syndrome, this flood of cortisol that gets released into your bloodstream and into your heart, can do damage to the heart muscle. So you can actually die of a broken heart, literally. That's what you're dealing with. So don't say it's just stress or it's all in your head. If it's all in your head, it could be all in your body too. We think about with different conversations you can have with a child depending on how old they are. About books too, like the Big Kids Journal, the Big Life Journal. There's one for teenagers and one for kids. That's another good book that's sort of interactive. But thinking about mom's relationship with children and how that comes under attack. Here's a conversation that you might want to think about having with your children. Just try it on for size. Please don't think I'm telling anybody what to do here. This is all throwing out suggestions. If some of it fits, try it out, see what happens. But we imagine a big pot here, and we throw things in the pot, and you stir it and see what you want to add or take out that makes sense to you. So, one of the problems going through the court system is it says in the court document, one parent shall not speak in a disparaging fashion about about another parent. And what many of our mothers take that to mean is I can't talk about dad at all, because if I talk about the horrible things he did, that's the court's going to see that as disparaging. So, for example, we have a lady whose 5-year-old child, after she had knee surgery, came up and punched her in the knee, and then laughed when she saw the expression on mom's face of pain. And mom said, "Why did you do that?" And the child says, "Well, because dad told me to do it to see what you would look like after I did it, and so that to see the look on your face after she did it." So little child is being used, weaponized by dad to cause pain to mom, and see that Machiavellian and sadistic component that dad is teaching child. Let's look at her point of vulnerability. That's the Machiavellian component, and let's attack that, and then let's laugh about it afterwards. That's the sadistic part, that taking enjoyment out of causing pain or watching pain and suffering in somebody else. So here we see the training of a junior abuser happening at the master's knee. Abuse is a learned behavior, and the little kid is learning to grow up to become the big abuser, being taught by dad. So what can mom do to counter that if she's struggling against this? Order, one parent shall not speak in a disparaging fashion against the other. To me, now I'm not giving you legal advice, but here, as a lay person, the way I read that was, I'm not going to call dad names. I'm not going to say he's crazy, or this is what these guys will often do with to you. They will say, your mother's crazy, your mother's a B word, your mother is she's trying to steal everything from me. They will fling all kinds of lies about you to discredit you and disparage you, calling you names. I'm not talking about doing that. Here's what I'm suggesting in the way of a conversation with your child or with your children. When dad takes you for ice cream, or when dad buys you a puppy, isn't that nice? That's really great when dad does these great things for you, and I really celebrate that. When dad calls mom names, when dad calls you names, if dad tells you that you are stupid or lazy, or when he drags you by the ear across the room, or comes into your room late at night to rant and rave at you, these are not good things. These are scary. They're hurtful, and that's not how a father should behave towards a child. There are other ways of showing that you're unhappy. There are other ways of resolving conflict. Let's think of brainstorm some of them. What would it look like for a parent? How could we imagine they would act in a setting where they wanted to express their anger or disappointment or discipline? So in our house, we have what happens at dad's house. I can't control. I can control what happens at mom's house. And at mom's house, we treat others with respect and dignity and kindness and compassion. There's a reason why I'm not with your dad anymore, because he did not treat me with those things. I learned to create boundaries, and I learned to say this far and no further. And that's why I'm not with your dad anymore. Now, I want you to know, my beloved child, I will always be your mother. I will never divorce you. But there will be consequences for your behavior, and I will not tolerate being treated with anything less than respect in my house. This is my house, and until you're 18, you are my child, my minor child, living under my rules in my house. And let's talk about how to deal with stress and anxiety and anger and depression. Let's talk about it now while we're calm. Because know this, the next time you punch your mother, the next time you call me names, even if it's on the way to school, I will be pulling over to the side of the road, and you may not make it to school on time that day. You may find yourself going to bed, and there will be things that will be taken away from you, and you'll get them back. It won't last for very long, but it'll last for long enough to show you that this is my house. I'm your mother, and I love you unconditionally. I love you even when you hurt me. I love you even when you're mean to me. I love you even when you call me names. But you don't get to call me names and to hurt me and not experience consequences as a result. And I'm doing this because I love you, and I don't want you to end up treating your partner or your friends the way your dad treated me. I don't want that to happen to you. And let me tell you something that's going to give you lots of hope now. You're coming to a crossroads in your life where you get to choose who you are when you grow up. You get to choose who you become. Abuse is a choice, but so is love, so is kindness, so is compassion. You can learn to take a beat before responding. You can learn to take a beat, and that's where you later on you can talk about art of living or meditation or yoga, things to help them with self-regulation. Back to our story. So you may be thinking at some point, well, if dad's all these nasty things, if you're saying all these things, like he did these horrible things and that's why you left him, if I'm 50% dad's DNA, 50% mom's DNA, does that mean I'm 50% bad guy? And that's when I will offer to you, my beloved child, another way of looking at a mom and dad and yourself. What if you're 1/3 dad's DNA, 1/3 mom's DNA, and 1/3 what you choose to make of your experiences with both mom and dad? And don't forget all the other adult role models you have in your life now and will have in the years to come. Teachers, coaches, pastors, rabbis, if you're a person of faith. So many adults, male and female, that you can learn from. And can you also be thinking to yourself, when dad calls mom names, or when he calls me names, how do I feel inside? You're teaching them self-reflection there. How does it make me feel? Does it make me feel sad? Does it make me feel worthless? Does it make me feel angry? What do I do with those feelings? So important to have those feelings and find a way to deal with them. That's why books like the Big Life journal can be helpful, or therapists can help them, or teaching them techniques like yoga or meditation or tapping, EFT techniques, things they can do in the heat of the moment. Butterfly hugs, hugging themselves, tapping their arms, alternating taps to get the left and the right hemisphere talking to one another again, so they're not just acting instinctively from their reptilian brain. Even here's a quick tip: breathing in through your nose, holding it, and then breathing out through your mouth slowly, like you're blowing out a candle, or whistling, or blowing out through a straw. The straw breath, breathing in through the nose and then holding it, and then I feel better just having done that a couple of times. So these are simple techniques: the tapping, the breathing, the alternating, the hugs. You can teach your kids any age these things, and then they can learn to take a beat. They don't have to respond by calling you a bitch, by punching you, by saying horrible things that they will regret later and that will hurt you now. So they get to say, I could be 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. I'm coming to a crossroads in my life, and I can become the thing I saw. Be careful not to become the thing you hate. You heard me say in my previous video, when you look into the abyss looks into you. Watch out for that. Watch out, don't go down that dark road. Dad may have gone down that dark road, but son doesn't have to, daughter doesn't have to. They can say, that is a dark road. I want to learn from mom what healthy love looks like. I'm coming to a crossroads. I can become like dad. I can get involved with somebody like dad. Or I can go my own way. And I can say, it hurt me. It hurt my heart when my dad called mom names, or when he called me names, or when he made me feel worthless, useless. That hurt me. I don't want to ever feel like that again. And I don't want anybody that is my friend or my girlfriend or my boyfriend to ever feel like that, ever. So knowing how much it hurt me, I'm going to treat others in my life with that much more love and kindness and respect, because I know what it feels like not to have those. They come to a crossroads and they choose, is it safe to do self-reflection? Because you can bet your ex does not do self-reflection. At some point he came to a point in his life where he said, if I look within and see the monster within, if I see that in the mirror, not just the mirror, but my whole self will shatter. Everything will shatter. I can't look at the monster within, the monster I've become. I have to make you the monster. I'm going to take all the bad and evil and horrible things I've done and project them onto you and make you the bad guy. You the child, you the wife, you the ex. You're the bad guy. They will be the last to ever label themselves an abuser. They're the poor victim, and you're the problem. And they will try to convince your children that you are the problem. You must be the problem, because otherwise, if the truth were ever to come out, it would destroy them. So they must destroy you first. So back to that conversation, the crossroads they come to, I can become like dad, I can get involved with someone like dad, I can go my own way, I can choose to treat others in my life, friends, colleagues, loved ones, with all the care and love I didn't get, and with the love and care that I got from my mom. It just takes one healthy parent. It just takes one healthy parent for them to learn what healthy love looks like. What a burden to put on you, but what an honor too. And how wonderful that you are in that position, that you can do everything you can to turn that ship around. Now, there's no guarantee, and sometimes they do get won over. They go over to the dark side. And but just know that there's always the opportunity for them to recognize the truth and to come back to you. It's happened to some of our ladies days, weeks, months, years, decades afterwards. They've seen who the truly healthy parent is. So that's the whole parenting talk. Now, immigration. If you've got immigration issues, again, you might want to check out a family justice center near you. If there's an immigration attorney there, or reach out to an immigration attorney. If you're a victim of domestic violence, you might want to see if you can get on board for the U visa if you cooperate with law enforcement to help. Even if your visa is expired, they can help you if you're a victim of domestic violence. So something to talk over with an immigration attorney or with a family justice center. Psychological, emotional abuse. We talked about seeking out a therapist that understands covert abuse, that understands the Dark Tetrad, that believes you, that doesn't want to say, oh, what's your role in this, or can you use your assertive statements, that helps you shore up your inner reserves, builds you up, helps you recognize the gaslighting and separate yourself from it. So the first time you escape from an abuser? In your head, where you recognize that's abuse. I'm not going to call them out on it because abusers get dangerous when you call a spade, when you unmask them. But in your heart, you can know I'm already free because I understand that that's abuse. It's covert abuse. I don't have broken bones or bruises to show for it, but I see that's gaslighting. That was love bombing. That's gaslighting. That's manipulation. That's triangulation. Trying to create an alignment with my two sons, with my husband against me, or sowing seeds of dissent or division with one child against another, just to sow chaos in the home. I recognize what's going on now, that gaslighting that he's doing. And it's hard for me to leave because he's not evil all the time. Sometimes he's nice and we have good times together, and that makes it harder. Why? Oh, that's a cycle of abuse. Because when he's being nice, oh, I know now, that's part of the control that keeps me in the relationship, because it resurrects that false hope, makes me think, oh, here's the man I fell in love with. But if you keep a journal, you'll know that ultimately he always inevitably goes back to the other shoe dropping and revealing that other side of him, the Mr. Hyde. You never truly get one without the other. But now you're starting to put labels on it. Oh, he put me on an allowance? That's financial abuse. He tricked me into signing a quit claim deed? That's more financial abuse. They cover that in Family Code 6320. Financial abuse as a form of coercive control. Oh, coercive control. There's another new word to add to my, 2 words to add to my vocabulary. And I understand that even though I don't have physical scars to show for it, these wounds are internal, and it's no less dangerous. The fact that I don't have visible wounds to show for it, coercive control, is a lethality risk. He has torn up his card, entitling him to know what I'm thinking and what I'm planning. Be careful how much you share with your children even. Because in a moment of, what they say, keep them alive till they're 25 with their brains still forming, even if they promise that everything will be kept just between you and them, if you're planning to escape, if you're still with them, be careful how much you reveal in advance, because that could come out in a heated moment. So putting language on the abuse can help identify it so you don't take it personally anymore. We give the blame and the shame back to the person it belongs to. In your heart, first time you escape, in your heart, in your head, where you recognize, when you start thinking, okay, that's abuse, and what could life be like if I had my own home that was a sanctuary? And you could even, decorate it in your mind. What does a sanctuary look like to you? You escape first in your mind. The second time you escape is when you physically, geographically, up and relocate into your new home. And then decorate it, make it your little nest. That's the second time you escape. And what's the third time you escape? In your mind, when you exorcise the demon of his voice telling you you'll never make it, you're nothing without him, he will hunt you down. So getting rid of that voice can take a long, long time, and that's where a skilled therapist can help you, and a friend, and coming to a support group where you share your story with other ladies, and you get validated. Oh, what? You mean it's not normal to come in at 2 o'clock in the morning and talk to me for 2 hours, and I'm expected to be an attentive listener and get up and get the kids to school the next day? You mean that's not normal? No, that's not normal. That's a form of coercive control. Monopolizing your perception, turning you into not even a servant, but a slave, to be at his beck and call. So sometimes EMDR has been found to be helpful with some of our ladies. Eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. Talking to a therapist that's skilled in that can help with PTSD and trauma triggers, especially helpful when you're going to court to help lower that stress threshold so you don't sign something without even realizing what you're signing. Talking to a skilled therapist can make all the difference to help you keep your sanity. And same with your children. If you can get them into therapy before entering the court process, oh, how wonderful that will be. A therapist of your choosing, where they can just remember that they are mandated reporters too. So if they share something that's going on in the home before you're ready, watch out for that. You want to get your kids ready. You want to get ready, get all your ducks in a row. But sometimes going through the court process, a report that comes from a child's therapist is taken with more weight than if it comes from the mother. Because often if you make allegations of abuse of a father against child, they'll call that parental alienation. And so in the marriage, if you didn't do enough, quotes, to protect your child from the abuser, you'll be accused of failure to protect. And may risk having your children taken away from you. If in the course of the divorce you don't expose your children to the man you had to run away from, to flee from, you may be accused of parental alienation, gatekeeping, and restrictive parenting. So watch out for that. Damned if you do, damned if you don't. And that's where this project that we created here, this executive summary workshop, can be very helpful to distill, condense everything you've had to deal with down into 2 pages, bullet point form, so that you can share your story and tweak it just like a resume, depending on who you're seeking help from, to help them understand what you're dealing with, whether it be financial abuse with talking to a certified divorce financial analyst, or your mother trying to explain all the different types of abuse you've been subjected to, or getting your the salient points together to talk to an attorney if you're looking for a restraining order where you might want to focus on the physical abuse that you've been subjected to. So we have had a case of one lady so far who was able to get a restraining order against her ex, covering herself and her child just on the basis of coercive control. So what a victory that was. So let's keep that hope alive, that the court is becoming more and more attuned to the various shades of abuse. It's not just physical or sexual. It is so many different types of abuse that we just covered, or covering right now. Spiritual. Have you been attacked? Has your faith been attacked? Does he not let you practice your faith or make fun of you for doing it? Or does he use the Bible or other religious texts as a weapon to control you? That's when you might want to think about, perhaps if he's recruited everybody in your current congregation, could you check out another one and find a source of faith and healing from another organization? Can you read books like Is It Abuse by Darby Strickland if you're a Christian? Darby Strickland, Is It Abuse? Another very helpful book that in no way condones abuse, even if you're a Christian. So vocational, have you given up your career? Put it on pause in order to raise your family, or due to pressure or being convinced by your partner that it's time to focus on his career now. So maybe are you thinking about taking your career back? Even if you're in the relationship still, thinking about how can you become financially self-sufficient. Even if you've been married long-term, more than 10 years, it can be very hard to get the community assets divided in a way that's fair to you. And even if he's been ordered to pay, often he won't. He will stonewall. And what position does that put you in if you've got to put food on the table for your kids or yourself, or pay the rent? So if you can start thinking about how to become more financially self-sufficient quietly, carefully, through things like Coursera, or making it look like you're volunteering, is there a story that you can share? And watch out for your need to be honest and share your plans and hopes and dreams and fears and dissatisfactions with your partner. He's torn up that card. It's like now you realize you're a prisoner in your own home. You can really share your plan to leave with the prison guard. The less he knows, the safer you'll be. So whatever story you have to share, devise in order to help him understand that, you want to get to the point where you're contributing to the household income, or you feel like your mind is kind of atrophying and you want to just keep the old brain cells alive. Here's a book study group that you want to join. He doesn't have to really thoroughly know the details, does he? If there's a way of avoiding it. So the less he knows, the safer you'll be. What he doesn't know won't hurt you. In Santa Clara County here, we've got this great organization called NOVA. That's like a job placement, not job placement, job center that that advertises different jobs. They've got a job bank, and they've got a coach that can help you with fluffing up your resume and helping with interview skills. So that's something to look into, or maybe talking to an executive recruiter or a life coach. There's lots of different providers out there that can help you think about what it's like to get back into the workplace. Oh, and just another word to slip back to parenting for a moment. Do you know that there are parenting coaches if you're struggling with discipline with your children as they're getting older, maybe as tall as you are or taller, and you're starting to feel like maybe afraid of a son or a daughter, or worried even that they're spending all their time playing video games and not going to school. You might want to talk to a parenting coach, and then you can also be thinking about an educational consultant who can help you with everything from a mentor, kind of a big brother type after school, to a wilderness camp, to a residential treatment center and therapeutic boarding school. So with the therapeutic boarding school and then residential treatment center at the far end of the spectrum, as far as having a transporter come take your child as long as you're under 18, and then going to a school that has therapists on staff there, and it's where they would live, to kind of press the reset button and get therapy, take them out of the family setting, and help them start to learn what skills are. It's being a part of a family in a healthy way. Sometimes that can be done with a judge and a letter from a doctor, if that's deemed to be in the best interest of your child. But something else to think about and talk about with an attorney if things are getting that bad. In some cases, you can take everything away for a short period of time to discipline a child, but you don't want to get into a tug of war over that laptop. You don't want to take their laptop away, and next morning you wake up and your laptop is gone, or your cell phone is nowhere to be found. Watch out, because that's telling you you're getting into really dangerous terrain, and it's important to call for backup in the form of a parenting coach or an educational consultant. Okay, back to we covered vocational, residential, your home. Where are you living? Where do you plan to live? Think about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, that pyramid, that bottom level. There's a lot of work involved in the food, shelter, clothing. Where are you going to live? What source of income are you going to have? What's your home going to look like? So you want to be kind of thinking about it. If you can do some subtle, quiet shopping, the less he knows, the safer you'll be. He doesn't have to know all these things you're planning. Even these consults with attorneys, if you can pay cash and even park several blocks away, walk the rest of the way to do the interview with the attorney, he doesn't have to know. And what you're doing is you may end up staying. And at WomenSV, there's never any pressure from us for our ladies to leave. We just want you to be able to make an informed decision. And in fact, sometimes it's safer to stay. We can't make that decision for you. Only you can make that decision. Sometimes ladies understand that he's in such a powerful position in the community, he will work very hard to get custody of the children, or even if it's you're sharing 50-50. Even if you start off with a restraining order, the court still wants to work towards 50-50 custody. And that means 50% of the time you are not there to act as any kind of buffer at all for your child. And so other moms might say, well, at least 50% of the time I'm in my home with my rules, and I get to show them without my ex breathing down my neck or contravening my rules. I get to show them what a healthy home looks like. So you've got to make that decision for yourself. Does it make sense to stay or go, and if so, when? But that it's about making an informed decision and talking to an attorney, talking to a CDFA, Certified Divorce Financial Analyst, coming to a support group where you hear about other ladies' stories, what possibly could lie ahead. You want to take a look at that book, Splitting, by Bill Eddy as well. He's a licensed clinical social worker, a mediator, and an attorney in the state of California. So he's got, and he even has a podcast. I think it's called "It's All Your Fault." So look for Bill Eddy and some of the wonderful tips he gives in Splitting, which is about divorcing somebody with a personality disorder. So he may not be diagnosed as such, but you might find that they have a lot in common. The residential part. Watch out for if he leaves you with the home, is he going to stick you with the mortgage? And where are you going to live? Can you register with the Save at Home program? Um, what does your home look like? Even if it's a small. Let's say you're on a 5-acre estate and you're about to move into a 1-bedroom apartment. It will be your 1-bedroom apartment. You can't put a price on freedom. So I would encourage you to think less about the things you're losing and what you will hopefully end up gaining: yourself, your spontaneity, your creativity, your happiness, the friends you get to choose to be around, yourself, your identity, your joy, reclaiming joy. Then your social network, peer support that's often come under attack. Are there some friends that you've lost that have already gone over to the dark side? But have you been quiet and silent all these years, trying to put up a good front for the sake of your marriage, for the sake of the children? Remember what I said, the home is already broken. He broke it. And now it's about putting on your strategic hat. This is the war room, folks. This is the war room, the situation room. We have a situation here. How are we going to deal with it? How can you start to take your power back bit by bit? Think about first to market wins. So are there some trusted friends that you can start to share your story with? Swearing them to silence and secrecy first, but starting to share bit by bit what you've been experiencing. Can you compare what your home looks like with other homes? In other homes, everybody might sit around the dining room table and have a big, knock out, drag out, whatever that saying is. Knock down, drag out argument about politics, but it's done in love, and they're all friends at the end of it. And they might gently tease one another, but it's come from a position of love and caring. There are homes that are like that, with a wonderful dad, a wonderful husband, a wonderful man. So there are homes that are like that, and if your children can hang out at any of those homes, so much the better, because they get a taste of what healthy, normal life looks like. But if you've got a friend that you can share your story with, how wonderful to be able to break the silence. He doesn't want you to break the silence, because that's part of the control. If he can keep you isolated and silent, the better to control you with, my dear. So what's the counter strategy? Then breaking the silence with safe people. How about your OBGYN? How about your primary care physician? How about your therapist? Really laying it on the line, and then seeing how she responds. If you start to share the horrors that you're experiencing, does she say, "Oh, and yet you stay," or "and yet you're letting him get away with that"? Watch out for that, because she clearly doesn't understand that you are a prisoner, and this is an act of domestic terrorism that you're experiencing on a daily basis. The physical abuse, those are one-offs. But the problem with just looking at the physical abuse is it misses out that day-to-day imprisonment, the walking on eggshells, the sleeping on eggshells that you're having to contend with. So can you start to take back or connect more closely with some of your friends? Can you reach out to a support group? There's a Menlo Church has something called the Divorce and Relationship Recovery Workshop, and people come to it as a result of a relationship that has ended for many different reasons. But that's something to consider as well, to build your network of support, because abuse is isolating, not just because he tries to isolate you from all your sources of support, but because you may feel like nobody else is going to understand. You may feel ashamed. You may feel like this is a big dark secret, that you're the only one experiencing this. You live in a nice neighborhood, in a nice home, and your husband earns a decent living. How can this be happening to you? You don't want to share this dirty secret. Believe me, once you start sharing, you'll see it's so much more common than you ever thought. If 1 in 3 women on the planet has been raped or beaten, or will be raped or beaten during her lifetime, that's 1 in 3 women on the planet will be severely beaten or raped during her lifetime. It's according to the World Health Organization. So we talk about 1 billion rising day, because it amounts to 1 billion women. 1 in 3 women. That doesn't begin to account for all the women experiencing other more subtle forms of abuse: emotional, financial, legal, technological, and all the other spokes of that wheel, the attack defense wheel we've been covering. So you can bet it's much more common than you ever realized. It's the pandemic within the pandemic. And it's time we all got together and maybe rise up together with one united voice At WomenSV, we're about peaceful, peaceful resistance. We run an underground resistance movement here, but our approach is modeled along Martin Luther King and Gandhi, not Malcolm X. There's room for all different types of dissent, but we're about peace and love and understanding and forging connections with the powers that we'd like to influence. It's about education in the end. I was a teacher before becoming an advocate, and I really do believe that when it comes to domestic violence and abuse, education is the best form of prevention, and the earlier the better. But it's never too late to start educating your friends and potential allies about what you've experienced. Make sure you can trust them, because you don't want word getting back to your husband before you're ready for it. So we've been all around the wheel. We've talked about all the different types of abuse that I've thought about, but you may think of others, and you can type those into the comment box. And don't forget to click on subscribe if you'd like to learn about, and the little bell if you'd like to learn about our next videos. We've got so much to share with you. Coercive control is a deep, rich subject. Just pick up Evan Stark's Coercive Control. If you don't believe me, Coercive Control, How Men Entrap Women in Personal Life. What a tomb that is. He's got his doctorate for a reason. Bless his heart. But he's the one that put coercive control on the table for us here in this country and in other parts of the world, like the United Kingdom, Canada. So let's keep gathering here in this silent, secret, sacred space, so we can band together one another and feel like we're not in this alone anymore. Please know that this is a safe space here for you, and I will do everything I can to support you, to share what I've learned over the past 11 years now, working with over 1,000 women who have all been dealing with covert abuse and coercive control. So please do something nice for yourself after listening to this video. What's in your self-care routine? What's in your wallet? What's in your self-care routine for tonight? Hot bath? The next episode of The Bachelor? What are you watching these days? Is there something funny, uplifting, or a funny, uplifting friend you can call? You want to judge your friends on the basis of how they make you feel afterwards. Same with your mate. How does he make you feel? Listen, get back in touch with that gut instinct. That gut instinct never fully died. That's why you're listening to this video now. But keep it alive. Keep that gut instinct, that woman's intuition, that little voice inside your head that says something's off, something's not right here. Listen to that little voice and nurture it and fan the flame, because that's where freedom lies, following that flame. Take good care, and I'll talk to you again very soon.